Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Tanzeel Mirza. Today we'll see how we can create a UI library of our own in Angular. By UI library I mean libraries like Bootstrap, PrimeNG, Materialize. You might have seen these libraries, right? So we are going to create these libraries. So I'm assuming you already know what a UI library is and how you can use them in your project, because in this video we'll see how a UI library is actually created and published. So we'll create a basic library first and add a simple component, maybe a button component to keep it simple. Once you have the basic understanding, then you can enhance the code and add as many as complex components you want. Okay, so let me first show you the plan. So the plan is something like this. So first we create a UI library and add a button component, then we publish that library. Okay, and then we will create a fresh new Angular application, very basic Angular application as usual, and then install and consume the library into that Angular application. Let's get our hands dirty. First thing first, we'll create a new workspace. I'll minimize this and I'll open a new terminal. So we'll create a new workspace, and notice that I said a new workspace. I didn't say a new application, because we don't need a full-fledged application code. We need an empty workspace with some minimal configuration files and no application code at all. To do so, we'll use a parameter with ng new command, and that parameter is create application. I'll type it here. That parameter is create application, and it will be set to false. This parameter will instruct the CLI to initialize an empty workspace without any application code. So I don't want to miss any important detail here. So before proceeding with this command, I wanted to show you the difference between the project structures with and without this parameter. I'll share the slide with you. I'll maximize it, or maybe it's okay like this. So on the left hand side we have a project created normally, and on the right hand side we have a project created with this parameter I just showed you. So you can see the difference. We don't have the application code over here. Okay, so while a project created normally with ng new command, you can see we have source folder, we have app folder, and we have all the application code here. But this is not the case with the when that parameter is added. Let's go back to our terminal and create the workspace. I'll remove this. Ng new, I'll call it my workspace. I'm just giving a generic name. You can give whatever name you want, and then here the create application equals to false. So we'll add this parameter with that ng new my workspace create application equals to false. Hit enter. This being done, I'll navigate into this workspace, and then I'll open this workspace in VS Code. And with that opened on VS Code, we don't need this terminal anymore. I'm just closing it, and I'll open the terminal here itself, because I don't want to go back and forth with that terminal and VS Code. It's quite confusing, so let's stay here. Now here we need a library code, not a general application code. We need a library. So here I'll generate a library, and the command is ng generate library and followed by the library name, whatever name you want. So just keep your eye over here also, because as soon as I run that command, a folder called projects will be created. Let me run that command. Ng generate library, and I'll keep the name as simple as that, mylib, just a generic name. So as soon as I run this command, see this project is created, and inside project you will have this mylib, and here you have source and then you have lib, and you have the rest of the code, important code, whichever is required to create and build your library. um, all the generated code will sit inside this folder itself. So this all is your library code. That's and CLI has created some files for you. We can talk about these files, but not today. And what I wanted to tell you is that this library will have a package JSON of its own, while the workspace will have a package JSON of its own. So how these two differ? I'll not go into the details, but this package.json, there is a property called version. So this property you can use to maintain the versions of your library. Suppose you added one component and the version is 1, you started with that initial version, and then you added few more components, or you upgraded your button component itself and you want to publish it as a newer version. So you can just edit this property and it will create a new version for you. I mean, it will be published as a new version for you. Now we'll quickly add a component in our library. So to do so, we'll navigate into projects, mylib, and then source, and then our code. I'll show you. So first we'll go there, cd projects. Inside projects we have mylib, and inside mylib we have src, and inside src we have lib. Up till here we have to navigate. Then here we'll generate a component and we'll use the same old command nggc and the button component that we want to create. So I thought let's first start with a simple component, just to keep the thing simple and easy to understand. Of course you can add more and more complex components here. So let me generate the component ngGC, and I'll call it my button. Okay, the component has been created here. You can see the folder, and it has given you some HTML, CSS, the very basic code, and instead of my button works. Okay, I'm not going to edit anything, just keep it like that only. Next step is to export your component, and one of the important file is public API DS. So this is what you can say, it's a user layer level file, because here we decide what is available to the user, what will be available to the end user. So here you have to whatever component you create, you have to export it here. So anything exported from here is considered public when our library is imported and used by some other application. So while you are adding a new component, make sure you export it from here. So I'm going to export my component, export all from inside lib, not lib, and the button is my button here, my button component. So this is how you export it. Now it is available. Until and unless I add it here, it won't be available to the end user, no matter how many components you keep on creating here inside lib. But if you are not exporting them, it's not visible to the end user. I'll save the code, and then I'll go back to the mylib module. Here also export has to be done, but as you can see, because we use the command line CLI, so it was automatically added in the declaration, but also we have to export it from here also. So I'll copy this part, my button component, and I'll add it in exports. I'll save the code. Done. So far so good. Now the next step is to build the library. First we navigate back to the root workspace folder, and from there we will run this command ng-build-mylib. I'll show you that. So before that, let's talk about this command first. This ng-build command, first I'll type the command over here. I'll have to go back, cd dot dot cd dot dot, and we have to navigate till the root, and I'll clear everything out. Okay, so we have to navigate till here. From here we will run this command ng-build, but I'll not hit enter right now. So before running this command, let's talk about this first. So this command is used to compile an Angular application or an Angular library. We build our application or library when it is ready to be deployed and published for the end user. So in simple words, it compiles your app or library. But here is an important note for you guys. Build for an application is quite different from the build for a library. Though the command is same for both, but the compilation process is different. The library is built with AOT compiler, which stands for ahead of time compiler, so that the application that is going to consume our library don't have to compile the components of library again. So rest assured that the library is already compiled and cross-check for compile time and syntactical errors. Yes, build fails. Build fails if there are errors in your library code. And since library is built with AOT compiler, you don't need to add prod flag with it like application to make it faster. Okay, so let's run this command now, ng build, and after building, and with this command we'll pass the name mylib. I'll hit enter. It's compiling. Once this is done, you can see this is successful, and here a message is displayed that the build is done, and from this project folder, projects mylib, and to this dist mylib. Yes, this will create a dist folder over here. It wasn't there before, so this will create a dist folder, and inside this folder we have our library which is ready to be published. Okay, this is some minified code, and this is the minified code for our library, and it is ready to be published. So the next command is ng published, but first we'll go in to publish it. First we'll have to go inside that cd dist and mylib. From here we'll run the command. So you can run npm publish or npm pack. I'm going to run npm publish. Once this is done, what happened? Okay, maybe I should try npm pack. We'll come back to this error. Okay, once this is packed, we'll talk about this. The purpose of this video is to show you how the library is created. We'll talk about the difference between npm publish and npm pack someday if time permits, but let's now do the npm pack, and it will create a once this is done, it will create an easy installable tgz for you inside the dist folder and mylib. Okay, so far so good. Now we'll create a fresh Angular application, the very basic and usual application we'll create with the same old command ng new. And once that is created, we'll try to install our this library and see whether it's working or not. Okay, so let me just minimize it, and I'll open the terminal again. I'll navigate to my documents folder, and here I'll create a new application, ng new. I'll call it library consumer, let's say. Okay, the application has been created. Now I'll open this application in VS Code, cd library consumer, code this. Okay, and now here we'll install that library. To install the library, there is a very simple command, npm install, and the path of the location of that library where it is kept. So you can go back to the VS Code and see here is your tgz. Just right click on that and do this copy path, or alternatively what you can do, it's already created, you can just go to the where you have installed published it, documents, and inside documents I had this where I created it, my workspace I created, maybe on home I created my workspace, and from there I'll go to the dist folder mylib, and then from mylib you can see this is the tgz. You just copy the location of this. Okay, will go there and I'll paste it here. Since I have already copied, and press enter, it is installing our library. See, it's very simple, very easy to install when it is packed. And done. Yeah, it's done. Now what we'll do ng serve. See, right now I have just installed the library. I'm not importing it yet in our code. Okay, let it run. It's compiled successfully. I'll go back to not serve, localhost. It runs on 4200 by default. Let me open. Yeah, it's working. Okay, library consumer. Yeah, it's working. This is the default landing page for a dummy application. Now what we'll do here, I'll add the import for that. So to do so, I'll go to source, app module ts, and here I'll import the library. Import. Let me just put it back in one line. And my lib module from which library? My lib. This I want to import, and this I want to add as an import element. And how do I know that the module name is my lib module? I'll tell you. I'll go back to the library code, and from there you can see you must be having this class, right? My lib module ts. See, if you go inside that my lib module ts, you will get to know that with which class name you have exported your library. So you have to import my lib module from my lib. So this is what we are doing here. Okay, this being done, I'll save the code. I'll close this file, and then again I want to go back to the app component. I don't need these many things. I guess I can remove all these things. What all is there? Okay, maybe at the last I'll add. I'll not remove anything, I'll just add it at the last. And I wanted to add the button component from our library, so it will be lib my button. I'll save the code. And how do I know the name is my lib my button? I'll show you. We'll go back to the code again, library code. So the moment you generate this code, this my button, if you go to the ts file, this selector will tell you what will be the tag. So whatever you specify in selector, you can edit this also. So whatever you specify in selector tag, in selector property, this is going to be your HTML tag. So this means your component will be recognized with this HTML tag. Anyway, for now I'll remove this. We'll go back to the code. It is compiled. We have saved the file. Let's go back to the browser and see. And yes, so that means our button is working. Okay, so one more quick round of changes. I'll put a proper button here. So this is my component. What I'll do, I'll make it button, and button I'll say click, just save it, and I want to publish it as a new version. So I'll go back to the package.json of the library, not of the workspace, of the library I have to go. So here it is. Let me just here we have version, and I want to publish it as a new version. I'll make it 2. Save the code, go back to the terminal, navigate back one more time, then we'll do ng build mylib, let it do the compilation, testing and everything. Not testing, this compilation thing it will do. Yeah, you can test your library also. Anyway, now we'll go back to cd test. Why I'm writing pinc mylib, and from here we'll just do npm pack. Okay, done. Why it's not version 2? I missed something out. What I did? Okay, I think I just reverted it back. I'll save the code, I'll navigate back, and I'll run the build command again. Let it run. Yeah, it's done. Now I'll go back to cd-dist and mylib, and here I'll do npm pack. So what's happening? I don't understand. Okay, the version is being set back to 01. Let it be, we'll fix that later. So we have the same version here. I know the reason why it is going back to 1, but I just don't want to waste your time and get back into the bug fixing and all. It's not a bug basically, but let's not discuss this thing right now. Let it be 01 right now. If time permits, we'll take this some other day. I'll go back to the application where it was running already. Okay, I'll close the process and then I'll install it again. npm install. You can create a skeleton app also inside that library itself, so that you don't have to go back and forth. You don't have to switch between the library and the application just to test your library. We'll see that some other day. Now installation is done. We'll go back to the command ng serve. Let it compile. Okay, it's compiled successfully. Let's go back to the browser and see. We'll refresh the page, and yes, we are getting the proper button here. So this is how we can create our own library. Of course, you can add more complex and useful components. So the sole purpose was to just give you a basic idea about this. So this was it for this video. Let me know if there are issues. Please post your questions and doubts in the comment section below. I'll try my best to address them as soon as possible, and hope this demo was useful. Thanks for watching this video. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the next video. Bye bye.